Welcome to another episode of ECAC Hockey Decision Makers. What a pleasure it is to be joined by Mark Boulding, the head coach at Yale University. Mark, it's awesome to have you on board today.
Thanks, Pierre. I do appreciate it. It's great to talk hockey, and we're not even snow hasn't hit down here, and maybe it will, but it's just so fun to be talking about our favorite sport.
And you're coming off of an amazing sweep over Brown University. Take us behind the scenes on that and how it all materialized.
Yeah, the stress level's been a little high. We played really well the previous weekend against Cornell and Colgate, and in our conference, you can play really well and come up with no points. So we were pretty dialed in for the week, and the women we put together a good game plan, and they executed a tough Brown team, a ranked Brown team, and they'd had a great start. So we got them at home, and then we're able to go the next day to Brown and get it done with a shutout. So we're very happy with the results, and hopefully that's more good things to coming up.
You're a man of the prairies. You come from Red Deer, Alberta, but yet you're coaching at an Ivy League school. Can you tell me what that whole dichotomy is about, how it fits into your lifestyle?
Yeah, talk about lucky. I tried to do my homework and was tried to be one of the better students way back when I was in school. And I guess I had maybe an education path in my mind. My dad was a high school guidance counselor in Red Deer for years. Mom was a nurse, and my sister is a high school teacher. So, eventually working in higher ed, I guess, is maybe the calling that I needed. I got a civil engineering degree. I didn't use that a ton, but it's pretty special, and it's different for sure. You always dream of going to the U.S. for anything. We had good baseball back in Alberta and friends that would go down and just try and find a way to play in the U.S. somehow. So once I knew I wasn't quite an elite player, I set my sights on trying to play. I didn't want to go stay at U of A. I'm not sure I would even have made the Golden Bears back then. So I just wanted to play college hockey and get an opportunity. So pretty fortunate to be here now.
And you had an amazing opportunity to go to Norwich University, which I find to be one of the most underrated places in all of college hockey. What an amazing tradition with that school. But when you were there, you had a great amount of success as a player, but you ended up coaching with a guy who's a real good friend of mine and an icon in ECAC and Hockey East, and that's Mike McShane. How much did Mike influence your path, Coach?
Yeah, everybody has somebody that gives you a crack and an opportunity. And in this game, it's hard. You have to pay your dues in many different ways. And I needed an opportunity. Mike gave me that. I was just finished playing. I was older, I'd played enough junior. So Mike gave me an opportunity to come back and coach after which would have been his first year at Norwich. And he was a wonderful guy, X and O motivator, a lot of things that I've learned from him just on how to motivate players and talk about it, but very, very structured too. And he just demanded excellence. So he comes to this little town, and a great school with great tradition, like you say, but he just we're going to get this done. So we knew a new rink was coming along. Charlie Holden was spearheading that, and many other awesome alums. And next thing you know, McShane's like, listen, I've got a job for you. We got to recruit hard. So he sent me to Canada. I spent a lot of time on the road that first year. And then we ended up with a good bumper crop recruiting class, which led to another and another. So I was just fortunate to get an opportunity. Didn't make a lot of money, but we had a lot of fun.
What I love about your story is you're basically a hockey man of the people. And the first time I saw you play was with the Weyburn Red Wings. You had a teammate named Donovan Hextall, who ended up obviously being a first or second round pick of the New Jersey Devils. You played for a coaching legend, Dwight McMillan. But, you're one of the first guys, or the last guys, I should say, Coach, that played major junior hockey with Medicine Hat, and then played Tier 2 junior, Nipawin and Weyburn, and then went to play Division III hockey at Norwich. And now that whole thing's becoming a real part of the hockey culture. Can you talk about your experience?
Yeah, that's really it's crazy how much has changed. I think we all knew it might happen, and boom, here we are sitting here looking at it now. I mean, back in the late 80s, they had the lists, and if you were listed by a Western Hockey League team, you'd go to their camps, their spring camps, and you'd hope to, impress somebody to get a shot. And I was with Calgary Wranglers, and then which became back to the Broncos, and Swift Current Broncos was where I was. And, I thought I was I was pretty close to making the teams back then with great guys like Sakic and Sheldon Kennedy and some really elite players, but not quite there. So I go back and play midget hockey, and so I was kind of around the Tigers Association, played for the Junior Tigers. A couple of pretty good goalies, Neil Little and Osgood, were our midget goalies, and people are hard to believe that story.
Neil Little was a good player at RPI.
Unbelievable goalie. So not bad goaltending. We still didn't win. So, there's so much depth out there. And so then I realized, I got to go play junior somewhere, but I got a crack really when the World Juniors hit, and Medicine Hat won a couple Memorial Cups in a row. And it was just an opportunity at the World Juniors when those players, Wayne, Dean Chenault, Wayne McBean, a couple defensemen are up there, gone, and they needed players. So, I got a chance to play 3 games. They were very memorable. I knew a lot of those guys that were, coming up from the midget as teammates. And I just couldn't believe it. That was always my dream, to play in the Western Hockey League. And then when I realized, I'm kind of at the very bottom end, I finished out playing junior and midget hockey. And next thing you know, I wanted to keep going. So play off to Saskatchewan, and you play that. So you knew that WHL experience was done, but now you're striving for something else. A lot of friends at Weyburn. We just had a fun time, and a lot of great players. For a legend, like you said, Dwight McMillan. So lots of guys getting scholarships and moving on and moving forward. So even though I didn't get a scholarship, I ended up at a great spot with Norwich, thanks to Bill Cahill and many others. But Billy Cahill kind of saved me and got me out to Vermont. So it was a lot of fun.
I love your story because I'm real good friends with the Sutters, but in particular, Brent Sutter. I spent a lot of time with at the World Juniors and other international events, and when he was coaching in the NHL. And I coached against him when he was a player for Chicago in the 92 final. I was a coach in Pittsburgh. So I've known the Sutters forever and really respect the Sutter family. You have a very good history with the Sutter family. You grew up in Red Deer. They're from Viking. Tell us about your experience with the Sutter family.
Yeah, my oldest brother played against the twins back in the day. They were the same age, and my brother Kent wasn't very good, but the twins sure were. And then I worked in Sylvan Lake. I worked. That was my summer employment.
That's their hockey camp.
So that's their hockey camp. Yeah, the Sutter Sylvan Lake Summer Hockey Camp. So you imagine having a pro like one of the Sutters. So there's a 10-week camp, and they all get a week to work, and you get to work 5 hours a day, 7 to noon with a pro on the ice, and we're counselors. We're helping them out, but they were unbelievable. Brian would drive his Chevy pickup to the rink, and that was the farm truck. And got to know Brent a little bit more. When I'm 16, 17, Brent and Randy Moeller and Kelly Kizio, they would skate all the time, and they would always make sure we had a spot to play. And talk about trying to keep up with great guys. But we would always get opportunities to listen to their stories and just watch how they're such pros. And they were in the prime then. Brian was with finishing up St. Louis. Then we ended up watching his kids. Sean was there at the camp, but Brent was really special to us and nice. And so what a treat to get to know them for sure. Great family.
You've taken this amazing journey, and now you're passing on all the information you've gathered over all these years to these young women at Yale University. And I don't want to take away your experience from Norwich when you were the women's coach there, because you did a lot of amazing things there to build that program, which is an elite program. What do you talk to your women about when you're talking about your life experience as a hockey man?
Yeah, that's, sometimes I guess I go on a tangent and tell stories, because I think storytelling is what is important in our game. There's lots of different ways that the game's evolved and changed, but what hasn't changed are the people who either give you an opportunity or have told you something that's important, whether it's, grind hard, think about those third and fourth liners that have given a lot and sacrifice. Because it's not all about the top players. And I think, if anything, I'm trying to be relatable, but also honest in what my path was. And these women, the thing that's impressed me the most, I had some amazing athletes at Norwich and great citizens, but the Yale women, they work hard. Like academically, they're so driven. They wanted a positive change when I got here, and they've put in the work. So I think the fruits of the labor are there, but I'm really impressed with the work ethic. So I just try and tell them stories of my background in playing hockey, and sometimes drop a few names. Of course, they don't know any of the old players, but they remember some good stories if you can tell them about a bus trip and breaking down between Nipawin and Flin Flon and wondering if you're ever coming back. Just things to try and either lighten the mood or also remind them that, hey, we've got it pretty good here, so let's just go to work and try and play hockey.
So I don't know if you remember the rink in Flin Flon. I'm sure you do, because that's a big rivalry, Nipawin and Flin Flon in the Saskatchewan Junior League. But one of my first experiences in Flin Flon, I went to a game and Flin Flon Bombers scored a goal, and all of a sudden I see this projectile flying across the ice with a rope tied to it. And the rope pulls a projectile, and there's a trail of blood. It was a moose leg that they had cut off a moose behind the rink, and they were using that to celebrate a goal. And I think you've probably seen some different things like that in the Western or in the Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League.
Yeah, we had a blast playing there. It was so much fun. Back then, Minot, North Dakota was in the league, so we got to go over the border and may or may not have been allowed to buy beer back then, and Dwight would let us. He would give us enough time to make sure it was in the hockey bags before we crossed the border. But yeah, Flin Flon was fun. They would have the covered tarps to make sure you could get onto the ice without getting pelted with something. But I had a few friends that played there, and what a great environment. Nipawin was great. Really, my first experience living away with a family, and as you billet, and you're like, what am I doing? But always those small communities are just so caring, and they just want to watch some hockey and take care of the players that are there. So it was just a great time in my life.
Coach, what's changed the most in women's hockey since you started as a head coach at Norwich to where you are now as a head coach at Yale University?
Yeah, I think, what we're all seeing is probably the physicality in the game. That's front and center, maybe the last couple of years. I think what's blown me away is the skill level, like toe drags and just high-end talent. When I started, we had a few players that were pretty crafty, and they really stuck out. But I'm telling you, third and fourth line kids, just kids that don't even have 10 points are talented. They can skate, they can move. They've put in the time. So I think the overall level of the game is so high right now. It's hard to find those separators and those difference makers, but it makes now coaching important, tactical. You have to get value out of players that maybe aren't getting, like I said, 10, 15 points a year. And I just think the skill level is awesome, and they're creative. So, they're learning. They're learning, and I think the evolution of our game is not too physical, but also just keep that finesse. It's like playmaking. At times they look like, some really good college teams played Wisconsin. We played Minnesota before, and Ohio State beat us before. So you watch those teams, like, this is like, the Oilers of the 80s. These teams can go.
Yeah, they're high octane. There's no question. I've seen a lot of their games, and I completely agree. As a coach, everybody's got their favorite places to recruit. When I was at St. Lawrence, I'll be totally transparent. I spent a lot of time in Saskatchewan, spent a lot of time in Northern Ontario, spent a lot of time in Quebec. Those were kind of like my three places, and I spent some time in Sweden. Mm-hmm. Are there places where Mark Boulding loves to go to recruit for Yale University?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'd say historically it's changed. We have so much fun harvesting players and watching. We go up to Hamilton to Stony Creek tournaments. They have the Bantam, they have the Midget, and then the junior tournament. It's just everybody's there, a great number of U.S. teams. So that's always a great productive one for all of us to go to. I haven't been out to the Notre Dame tournament for a while. We have been out there in the past. That's just iconic to get back to Regina and go and watch that. But we're hitting the prep schools up pretty hard. And as we're finding out, those are great places to go. And, Shattuck's a great school. If you can get a Shattuck player, you're doing all right. And BK. So there's lots of good players, but those are fun places when you just get back to the roots. Minnesota's always great to go to because, hockey's just so, so exciting up there.
Are you surprised at all by how physical the pro game is on the women's side right now?
Yeah, watching last year, we had our captain from 2023, Dalton Claire from Toronto, plays for Montreal, and we saw her play on Long Island last year. It was amazing, like collisions, like full out collisions, and they're finishing their checks, and I am surprised. I think players need to be prepared. We're trying to do that at our level a little bit more. They're just not used to running into each other at that, literally finishing your check. And it makes sense where the game's going. I think we just have to do a better job, even from 12, 13 up, preparing the girls and then the women how to take contact, and that it's okay. Don't let your guard down if somebody's going to angle you out, because you have to be prepared to take that contact. And then, the smart players, better edge work, you'll get away from those things, and you get somebody out of position by making that attempt to hit. So we're going to have to learn from it. And I think the end result's going to be tougher, stronger women, but better players. They're going to be aware of what's coming, and they'll just react quicker. They'll adapt.
I think that's such an awesome answer. So it leads me to this next question, because I didn't know you were going to answer that way. And I think it's really, really intelligent. Every sport, whether it's football, basketball, baseball, golf, tennis, there's always something you want to see get better. So
Yeah.
you just talked about trying to enhance players learning how to play in the physicality of the game.
Yeah.
Is there one other thing you'd like to see women do better that you think as a coach you can influence?
Yeah, I'm trying to think. In the game itself, I think scoring, how can we create more scoring, underhandling, and maybe this is what we need, a little more east-west. You have to be elite on your edges to get inside. You got to get inside to try and score goals. Anybody can pack it in and throw it at the net, but I'd love to see a little more development on that side. I watch little kids, and when you're really crafty, you can cut east-west. There's 10-year-olds at the brick tournament that are, doing amazing things. I'd like to see a little bit of more of that emphasis on the women's game. I think we're past having fun. There is a fun point for girls to play so you can get them hooked. But I think we really need to put in some hard work. I've got a 14-year-old. She's my youngest of 5. But, I want to see them be able to make plays and not just chuck it around. So I want, as a dad now and a college coach, I want to see the same level of effort put into designing offensive creativity from 10 to 15, so that when we get them, they actually can score and make plays. So that's what I'd love to see. I think we're still fixed on fun, and we have to do that, but we have to do a way that we can develop and enhance the scoring, and which is the fun part of the game.
I think you get to work in one of the most unique buildings in the league, Ingalls Rink. It's an amazing building, the Whale Tail.
Yeah.
The first time you walked in there, what'd you think?
So cool, so unique. You drive by Yale on 95 and you never pop in. Then when I got to take a look at it on my interview, and Wayne Dean takes me around. So Wayne was pretty influential. Just to give me the confidence to apply for it. I saw him at the coaches convention, and such a great guy, long time. So he's shuffling around, showing me the guts of the Whale, and you look around, you're like, wow, this place is so cool, so unique. And we got new boards and glass that year I came in. Keith Elaine's been great, mentoring me along the way and showing me around. But what a cool barn. And then then more stories come out, friends, and Graham Parsons back from the Silver Lake. He's like, you know what? I was with New Haven for a little while, and we used to practice there. I don't know why, but we had to go down to Yale and practice in the 70s, and the window's still there. And, then you get a real sense of, there's been a lot of hockey in New Haven, and we're just so close to New York City and Boston, Hartford. A lot of players, a lot of pros have come through there. So I'm finding out it's a pretty rich hockey town, and always will be. So just love the building. Pretty cool.
Somebody that I respected so much when I was a young coach, Tim Taylor, the late great Tim Taylor. Did you have a chance to spend any time with him? If you did he mentor you at all?
No, unfortunately, I kind of missed him. I saw him, but I didn't really get to know him at the time. So, when I started coaching, the convention was a little different. So I knew who he was and the legend of him, but I kind of miss it. But what I'm seeing is his graduates, and they're old guys now too, like us, but they talk about how he was and how he did things. And, Yale's won a national championship. They've been very successful. So I think about some of those coaches that have done that. I've had Dwight McMillan before, and some of those true college coaches. I've been lucky to be around a bunch of college coaches getting in early in the 90s when a lot of them were still going. So hearing the stories is great. York and those guys, you can't believe some of it. And then you meet him, you're like, yeah, I can believe it. Dickie Umili, like these are good people who have done so much, and they just keep going. And on the women's side, Billy Cahill was then after I was done coaching, he goes to coach the women at RPI, and what a kind guy. He said, make sure you got a box of Kleenex at times. You might need it because the store, it's hard coaching. It's an emotional game as it is. So, but I really enjoyed the mentorship that I've received from many, many coaches.
Yeah, no, there's no question. I knew Billy really well. I used to recruit against him a lot back in the day before he switched over from the men's game to the women's game. When you think about how you want to build your program out long term, is there one criteria when you look at a player, coach, or you say, I need to have that? If I don't have that, I can't have the player.
Yeah, that's so true. And I think we're all, to a fault, at every level, we probably look at the stats first, and then we see how productive this individual is going to be as a player, and that may form our impression the wrong way. What we probably should be looking at is, skating ability, but compete level, because at the end of the day, and you can be highly skilled, very gifted, even very, very smart. But if you don't have the jam to go to those places, if you don't have the jam to work together in a unit to forecheck, or you're not willing to come back in your zone, what do you have? Like, you don't have much of a player that's going to be impactful for your group. In fact, it's probably frustrating for both parties. So now that I think I've been sitting in here, the compete level, and that does match, you have to be competitive to come to a school like Yale, or even to be considering it. You have to grind it out. Sometimes in the classroom, you're shoulder to shoulder with really bright kids from around the globe, and you got to figure out that this is what you want. And I think that's what makes our conference pretty special.
So you've got a couple games coming up this weekend on home ice at Ingles. Obviously not easy. You're playing against St. Lawrence. Christopher Wells, one of my former players, and Matt DeRozier, another St. Lawrence guy who's at Clarkson. How do you attack that with your team going into a high-level matchup on home ice?
Yeah, that's chess against two pretty different but great chess players. Wellesley's unique. He's smart. He's creative. He's passionate. So his players will be ready. They bumped us in the first round last year. So hopefully, and they beat us in the regular season. So we got them a few years ago. So it's going to be a tough game. They've got a couple explosive players, a great shooter, and he the problem with Wellesley is he's like, I love coming to New Haven. We walk around, there's no snow, and they have their coffee shop. So Wellesley, he's pretty excited, and his team's juiced to come down here. So we'll have to combat that and hopefully get after them and a ranked team. And Matt's a great coach, quality year after year after year. They just keep going. And even when you think you've got them figured out, or they've graduated enough, they're right there again. So we're looking forward to it. Should be two great games. They've got a top end defense core at Clarkson. So we'll have our hands full, but we can't wait. I think the momentum is going to be hopefully ours.
I remember when I coached, drew up game plans to try to shut down other team star players. So I'll give you an example. Haley Wynn is a great player in your league. She plays at Clarkson. Do you refine your game plan to play against a star player like that, or do you just drop the puck and go play and everything's equal?
You certainly need to on the special teams. If you don't, you're in trouble, because those are the types of players that will, if you're not aware of what they're doing, they'll ring up 3 points on you, and that's, I think, where the game's evolved. You do have to key in on the special teams and the special players. You just cannot ignore that, or that's the reality of where our game's evolved too. You have to key on the top kids, and then for the most part, you do have to play your style, whatever that may be, and make it hard for them. Even though a player like Haley has got national team experience, we have to just play our game and keep her in front of us and block shots, and it'll be a challenge, but that's why you play. So we're excited for it.
Coach, I know you're up against the clock. I just want to ask you one more thing. The influence of the PWHL on college hockey today on the women's side, obviously. Is it really apparent as a coach? Is it starting to become apparent? How do you see this manifesting itself long term?
Well, I think you have what you finally have now is they're expecting to get developed at our level, and they want a shot at it. And you can't, you don't know what a player is going to be after until a few years in. Some kids really change their college trajectory as players after they get a couple of years under their belt. So somebody you don't think is going to be a prospect, junior, senior year, now you're like, this kid could be a pro. And for other reasons, like you need a right shot defenseman. You need somebody who can actually play a heavy style game or think and is tough. So I think it's fantastic. It's going to give us another, opportunity to truly develop and not just say, well, this is what you are. And, get it done when you graduate. That's it. So we're excited to see what happens, and hopefully more Bulldogs will get an opportunity in the PWHL.
Coach Mark Boulding, this has been a phenomenally enlightening experience. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us on ECAC hockey decision makers. You've been outstanding. I wish you all the best this season. And make sure that Guy Boucher guy whose daughter plays for you doesn't come and bug you too much.
Yeah, thank you. Guy's funny. He's awesome. But yeah, somebody taught her how to win draws. I don't think it was him.
No, it was not him. Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, Pierre. I appreciate it.